When I first met Damon, it felt like the universe had finally given me a break. I'd spent years in a series of lukewarm relationships, men who made promises like confetti, easy to throw and impossible to clean up. But Damon was different. He was steady, attentive, intelligent, the kind of man who looked at you like he saw something rare, the kind of man who made you believe you were safe. We met at a charity gala. He was in a navy suit, sleeves rolled just enough to show his watch. We talked about art, travel, and our shared hatred of shallow people. When he laughed, it was low and warm, the kind that wrapped around you. That night, when he asked for my number, I didn't hesitate. Over the next few months, he became my world. Flowers at my office, good morning texts before I even woke up, dinner reservations at places I'd only seen on Instagram. He told me he was an architect, successful, busy, but always making time for what matters. I felt like I'd found something real, something stable. He met my friends, charmed my mother, and slipped so easily into my life that I didn't question anything. When he said, "You're my future," I believed him. But the thing about lies is that they always leave a trace. Sometimes it's a slip of the tongue, sometimes it's silence where honesty should be. For Damon, it was a photograph. It was a Saturday morning. I was cleaning his apartment while he ran to pick up breakfast. I'd stayed over the night before. He'd left in a rush, phone ringing, muttering something about a client emergency. I wasn't snooping, not really. I was tidying the top of his dresser when I knocked over a shoebox. Inside were old receipts, cufflinks, and a small stack of photographs bound by a rubber band. I pulled them out absent-mindedly and froze. In the first photo, Damon was standing in front of an altar, wearing a tuxedo. The woman beside him was stunning. Dark hair, ivory dress, a smile that screamed love and trust. Behind them, guests threw rose petals. I looked closer. The date printed at the corner, 2 years ago. My stomach dropped. I flipped through the photos, reception shots, cake cutting, a honeymoon selfie on a beach somewhere tropical. In one, he was kissing her forehead, hand on her ring. My throat burned. I felt dizzy, like the walls were tilting. 2 years ago. That wasn't ancient history. That was now. I heard the front door unlock. Panic shot through me. I shoved the photos back into the box and slid it under a pile of shirts just as he walked in, holding coffee and croissants like nothing was wrong. "You okay?" he asked, smiling. "You look pale." I forced a smile, just tired. But inside, something had snapped. For the next week, I pretended everything was normal. I laughed at his jokes, let him hold me, played the perfect girlfriend. But at night, I couldn't sleep. Every word he'd ever said replayed in my head. Every "I love you" felt like a theft. I had to know the truth, and I had to hear it from him. I started with the basics. I looked him up online, his company, his LinkedIn, social media. His profiles were clean, almost too clean. No mention of family, no personal photos, just career highlights. Then I found her. A tagged photo in an old colleague's feed, Damon and the same woman from the wedding photos sitting side by side at a holiday dinner. Her name was Elise Martin. The caption read, "Can't believe these two have been married a whole year already." My chest tightened. Married. Not ex, not separated. Married. I clicked on her profile. Private. But her profile picture said enough. Her hand on his shoulder, the same wedding ring gleaming under soft light. I didn't cry. Not at first. I just stared at that screen for hours, numb, trying to reconcile the man who kissed me goodnight with the one smiling in that picture. By the time tears came, they weren't sad. They were sharp. I wanted him to feel every ounce of humiliation he'd built into my life. The next day, I started planning. I began recording everything. Our conversations, our texts, his calls. I didn't know what I'd do with them yet, but I wanted proof. If Damon had spent 2 years living a double life, I wanted receipts that couldn't be denied. A week later, I texted him, "Dinner Friday? My treat." He sent a heart emoji. "Can't wait." Friday came. He looked perfect as always. Hair slicked back, expensive cologne. We ate at his favorite restaurant, a small Italian place where the staff greeted him by name. Halfway through dessert, I smiled and said, "You never talk about your past much. Any big secrets I should know?" He chuckled, shaking his head. "No secrets. You've got all of me." It was almost impressive how easily he lied. I wanted to reach across the table and slap that smug calm right off his face. But I didn't. I smiled sweetly. Good. I hate surprises. That night, after he dropped me home, I sat in bed and drafted a text to Elise. "Hi, you don't know me, but you should. I think we have something very important in common." I hesitated before pressing send. What if she already knew? What if they had some twisted arrangement? But then I thought of those photos, of how young and trusting she looked, and my finger pressed down. She replied 2 hours later, "Who are you?" I told her everything. The dinners, the trips, the promises. I sent her screenshots of his texts. I didn't hold back. There was a long pause before she responded. "He told me you were a client." That was all she said. But I could feel the betrayal bleeding through those words. After a few minutes, she sent another message. "I need to see you." We met at a quiet cafe on the edge of town. When she walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked hollow, like someone who'd aged years overnight. She sat down, her hands trembling around her coffee cup. "He told me he was working late every week," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "He'd come home smelling like a different perfume and say it was the office." I stared at her, realizing we'd both lived the same script. He lied to both of us. She looked up at me, eyes hardening. "So what do we do?" And just like that, something shifted. The anger that had been eating me alive found direction. We met 3 more times over the next month, quietly comparing notes, building a timeline of his lies. Elise was meticulous. She had receipts, literally. Credit card statements, phone records, travel bookings. Damon had been living 2 lives with military precision, alternating between us like clockwork. We agreed we didn't just want to confront him, we wanted to expose him. But how? The answer came unexpectedly. One afternoon, Elise mentioned that Damon's company was considering him for a major promotion, one that required a spotless personal image. His boss was notoriously strict about ethics. I felt something click into place. We planned everything down to the minute. I invited Damon to dinner at my apartment. Elise would accidentally show up 15 minutes later, pretending she wanted to talk. I'd record everything. The night came. I made sure the wine was poured, and the recording app on my phone was running before he arrived. He walked in smiling, kissed my cheek, and said, "Smells amazing." I smiled back. It's a special night. Right on cue, the doorbell rang. Damon frowned. Expecting someone? I opened the door. Elise stood there, her face pale but resolute. For a second, Damon just stared at her, mouth open, confusion twisting into horror. "Elise? What are you—" "I think you should sit down," I interrupted, my voice calm, deliberate. He turned to me, eyes wide. "What is this?" Elise stepped forward. "You told me you were in meetings those nights," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "You told me she was a business client." He stammered, I held up my phone. "Please do. I'm recording." His face drained of color. "What?" "Say it clearly," I said. "You're married to her, right? You lied to me?" He looked between us like a trapped animal. "It's not what you think." Elise's laugh was bitter. "It's exactly what I think." He lunged for the phone, but I stepped back. "Try it," I warned. "It's already uploaded." For a moment, all he could do was breathe hard, his mask slipping entirely. Then he broke. "Fine. Yes, I'm married, but it wasn't serious. Elise and I were over." "You—" Elise slapped him across the face so hard the sound echoed. The silence that followed was deafening. He tried to speak again, but neither of us was listening. Elise walked out first, her head high. I followed a moment later, locking the door behind me. The next morning, I sent the recording, unedited, to Damon's boss. along with screenshots of his messages, timestamps, and a brief note. Thought you'd want to know who's representing your firm. Within 24 hours, Damon was suspended pending an ethics investigation. 2 days later, Elise called me. They fired him, she said. Apparently, he used company funds for some of your dinners. I almost laughed. Poetic. She was quiet for a moment. Thank you for not blaming me. I could never blame you, I said softly. We were both victims of the same lie. After that, we didn't speak much. We didn't need to. Our connection was forged in betrayal and sealed in justice. Weeks later, Damon tried to reach out. Emails, voicemails, apologies dripping with desperation. I deleted every one of them. He'd lost everything he built on deception, and I didn't need to watch it crumble. One evening, I found myself back at the same cafe where Elise and I first met. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow across the tables. For the first time in months, I felt at peace. People always say revenge is ugly, but they're wrong. Sometimes it's clean, quiet, and deeply satisfying. It's not about destruction. It's about truth. And in the end, the truth was all I needed. You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.